In this video, I will show how to download and use IntelliJ, the development environment for Scala. This can be used also for Java, C++, Python. I will use it for Scala. I'll show you some tricks and hopefully you will be able to start your development. It's a very good development environment. I'll just put download IntelliJ into Google. This is what I get. There are two editions. One is Ultimate, which is paid. You have to pay every year for new editions. Or you can just buy once and use the same edition forever. Same version. Or you can use Community Edition, which is the free version. It has the same features for Scala, Java, and Python. What it doesn't have is the features for database development, features for web development. It doesn't have them, so for that you need the license. So I already have the license, so I downloaded this Ultimate Edition. It's a big download, so I'm not going to show you how that works. So just download and click to open. So I'm on the Mac. Here's what I get. So then I install it by dragging it to the application folder. I already have a previous version, so this is for me an upgrade. I'm going to replace the old version. It's in use. I have to close it first. Let's close it. So what you will do is you'll see how I can open a new Scala project, start developing in Scala, and also how to open an existing Scala project, such as something you downloaded from the web, you checked out some repository that has an existing Scala project. I'll show you how to open that in IntelliJ. And then I'll show you how to navigate around the code, how to customize IntelliJ to make your development experience better. But the first step is to install IntelliJ itself and some plugins. So let's wait until that is done. So once I installed it, I copied it to the application folder. I can run it. And it's the first time I'm running it, so it's going to verify. Yes. Now, I do have settings from the previous version, so I'm going to import that. If you don't have those settings, that's okay. You just start with new settings. So as you can see, I have a permanent fallback license for this version, which means that my subscription is enough to keep using 2017.2 forever. But eventually the subscription will run out until I renew. So, as you see, it has opened my project that I was previously using. It says its plugin updates are available. So I need to update all that. Scala, Python, Markdown support, and so on. So I update that. And while it's going on, let me actually close this project and show you what you would see if you never used IntelliJ before. So you would see this window, the welcome window, and no projects on the left. I have a lot of projects because I already used it. What you would then do is you would go to configure and you would go to plugins, because that's the most important part of initial configuration. You need plugins for pretty much everything. So as you can see, you can check a number of plugins or you can uncheck them. So for instance, Groovy is a programming language, Guys is some library support, so all of those things. Most of them, for instance, Java Enterprise Edition, I don't need, so I unselected them. But I'd like to play maybe with JavaFX a little bit, so why not have that? In general, the more plugins you have here, the slower it will start, but it's a very small slowdown, so it's okay to have all of them installed. Now there are two kinds of plugins. There are plugins provided by IntelliJ and plugins provided by third party. So if you go to browse repositories, so you got install JetBrains plugin. So JetBrains is a company that made IntelliJ. These are the plugins from JetBrains, and then you can also go to browse repositories, and that will give you a larger list of plugins developed by third-party programmers. So here, for example, you can find Python plugin. Oops. Yeah, so this is the Python plugin. I already had it installed, but if you didn't, you could install it here. Or there are other things for Python, for other languages. So for example, if I wanted to use Haskell, then there is a plugin here, IntelliJ Haskell, and I could install it. So, and there are several plugins for Haskell. Basically, you want the main plugin, so to speak, the one that most people use. So there are two, HaskForce and IntelliJ Haskell. HaskForce looks like it's used by more people, but it's up to you. So when you say install here, it will download the plugin, install it, and then you would have to restart IntelliJ. Every time you install a new plugin, you need to restart IntelliJ, or otherwise you cannot use it yet. So what I do is I check many plugins, all of them that I want here, install all of them, and then I restart IntelliJ just once. So let's see if Scala plugin is here. So there's Scala. Yes. So you see it has been installed, but it says restart here. So it means I have updated this plugin and I need to restart IntelliJ for the changes to take effect. SBT, what about SBT? Okay, that seems to be already installed and nothing to be done. SBT is also important. So basically you need Scala plugin and SBT plugin. And I don't think I have any of those. Executor, I don't need. Well, I don't use that. Maybe it's nice, but I don't use that. In any case, I suggest for Scala you do SBT plugin and Scala plugin. So these two. The others, you can play with them, but I don't know. Alright, so for Python you would need a plugin. For Scala you need a plugin. So suppose you installed all of your plugins. So now, in other words, you said you clicked install here, or you checked or unchecked in the previous pane. So now you need to restart IntelliJ. So let's do that. If you don't do that, it will prompt you eventually to restart. Let's see. Didn't restart? Yes, restart. So let's restart this. It will reopen all my windows, which are none at this point. I closed my project windows. So this is right now loading the plugins, pretty much. So the more you have, the slower this will be, but it's pretty quick anyway. All right, so now you have two options. You can create new project or import project. So let's first do create new project. I have a firewall, so let me permit it to work. Right. So your project will be SBT based, so I strongly suggest to use SBT based projects. So now it says it has these versions of SBT, Scala. Sure, let's use that's the latest version. So let's call this project sample1 and press finish. Now it will create a new project and load it. Now there's a notion of loading the project in Scala. The reason for that is that projects in Scala, or SBT projects to be precise, are configured using Scala language. In other words, the configuration file for your project is written as a Scala program itself. So this is the file that is ordinarily called build.sbt. We will see that now. If I go and click on this and I open this, so these are the files it automatically created for me. The source file are in the directories main and test. There's Scala subdirectory in them. The project file has plugins, SBT, build properties. Then there's build SBT, and these are the settings for the project. These are the default settings. Plugins SBT is empty. Probably is okay for now. And build properties specify the version of SBT. So here's what needs to be done to start your project. You need to create a build SBT. You need to create build properties, and you need to compile build SBT. Now build SBT right now is very simple. It looks like it's just some settings, but this is actually Scala. And this file needs to be compiled by Scala. So the Scala compiler needs to run, compile this, and the compiled code goes into project/target directory, and we don't have that yet. So that means, okay, it asks me again for some internet access. Now you see target has been added to the project directory. So that is the compiled code of your project configuration. So build SBT is being compiled into your project/target directory. The project/project directory is also created automatically, but it's pretty much empty. So you would never have to go into those directories and do anything. And you can always delete these directories, the project/target or anything/target, you can always delete. That is the compiled code. So, as I was saying, build SBT itself is Scala code, and it has to be compiled. And that's what IntelliJ does automatically when it first creates your project. So now it takes a while to index all the libraries that it loaded. Now you see there are a bunch of libraries here. Java and SBT and plugins. Oh yeah, I didn't say that Java needs to be installed on your computer when you begin. It's already necessary to have Java installed. So use Java 1.8 latest version, downloading it from Oracle. Alright, now you see these processes were finished. There's no more red here. It doesn't say need to refresh because it was refreshing itself. So this is the first step. Load the project and refresh it, which was automatically done when you create it. Every time you change the file build.sbt, so for example, let me change the version to 1.0 for some reason. Every time you do that, you would need to reload the project for settings to take effect. How do you reload the project? There's an SBT button on the right. You press that button. Then you have your project SBT view, which has various things, but the main important thing is this button here, refresh all SBT projects. So if I do that, it says refreshing. So now the process has started, which you can see right here, that something is running. It tells you that it was changed, it asks you to do that, or enable auto import or ignore. So let me discuss this. Enable auto import is not useful in most cases. Refresh project is what I just did. So I pressed this button, it got alerted to the fact that the file has changed. If I press this again, that won't help because I'm already refreshing it right now. If I press auto import, then this time-consuming process will be run every time I change anything in build.sbt. This will slow down your development. If you're making changes to build.sbt because you're adding new sub-projects or new library dependencies or anything like that, and every time you do that, if you have checked this auto import option, it will have to refresh your entire project's build.sbt, and that will be time consuming. So you're just going to waste a lot of time. You can always refresh it manually by doing just that. And refresh it exactly when you need it and not every second when you add one character to this file. All right. So what do we do in this project? Well, the project is empty. It is already set up for main code and for test code. So let me show you how I would start developing. I would start developing with tests. For testing, I would use the standard Scala test framework. To do that, I write this. So this is magic. Library dependencies is predefined, and I add org scala test 304. That is a library that provides testing framework, and this library is supported by IntelliJ. So let me start writing a test. So how would I start? Well, I need to create some code that I'm testing, but let me just start with a test. So here I right-click and say new package. Package means the Java package or Scala package. Let's say this is org.example. And I will just create the same package here, just to save me some time. Org.example. So here, actually, I like to have my unit tests in the unit package. So I create a new package inside that, which is called unit. So then I get org.example.unit, and in here I will make a new Scala class, which is going to be example spec. All right. Now, I actually want to use the testing library, so this class needs to extend the Scala test thing, but if I try to do that, for example, flat spec then it doesn't know anything about Spec. Can't resolve. It can't resolve because I did not refresh my build SBT after adding library dependencies. So let me do that. Sometimes you see this yellow thing appears and prompts me to refresh projects. Other times it doesn't appear. Well, I don't care about that. I just use this SBT side pane, and every time I want to refresh, I refresh. I don't want to wait for it to ask me if I want to refresh. All right, so while this is going on, let me show you how you can configure IntelliJ, and certain things should be configured, perhaps. So first thing, the preferences are so many that there's an extra search function inside the preferences. For example, I want to find preferences that have to do with SBT. I say SBT here. And I have a lot of stuff which tells me here's whether I want to download SBT sources, then whether I want to have some parameters here. Now these parameters actually are deprecated in Java, so let me remove that. And so on. So live templates, for example. Here's some live templates, which I use to enter cool arrows. For example, here, this is what I type, and then I press tab, and then I get this arrow. So this is called live templates. So adjust your live templates so that you can have these nice arrows. Looks like our project is successfully refreshed. So now the flat spec, it still can't resolve, but it at least has some choices for it. So now it tells you to press Alt Enter, so let's do that. You see there are two choices, org scala test flat spec or scala test fixture flat spec. Well, we want the first one. So now it automatically adds the import, and now I can use my flat spec. So I usually do with matchers. You see, it knows already. It has indexed the scala test library, and now it has all the prompts. So it tells me what I could choose. I choose this one. Another function, I see right away this brace starts without a space after matchers. I don't like that. So I can say code, reformat code, and that is Alt Command L. So I can press that, and then automatically it's going to reformat my code nicely. All that reformatting, of course, can be customized. So let's see, code style, formatting, Scala. So there are all kinds of, okay, I'm not going to change that. One other thing I wanted to show is navigation here. So for example, you see there are all these external libraries that it automatically loaded. I can navigate through their source code now. So for example, if I press Command and then hover with the mouse, then it starts to show me that I can press through and go to that library's source code. So for example, flat spec or matchers. Even though it's not my source code, it's library's code, but it's still available. It's all open source. So if I press that, it will load Bill Venner's written this code. And on the left, you see navigation has changed. because I have this setting, auto scroll to source, auto scroll from source. Make sure you have that setting too, it's very helpful. On the left. So this setting means the left pane will auto scroll from the source that is open on the right. And this setting means the left pane will auto scroll to sources. So when you press something on the left pane, the right pane will open with that thing. So here's how it works. For example, I press here, it's not a double click, it's just a single click, and I open that source file. In this way, I can explore full source code of libraries. And if you go to the preferences and look for SBT, you see this SBT sources. If you check that, and then you import your project. When you make your project, you check that. It will also download sources for SBT and plugins, which is very useful when you're debugging or changing some SBT options, or we want to see how something is implemented in SBT and what are the available options. So that's very useful. Another very useful preference here is automatic importing. So let me see if I can find it. It's not always easy to find things, but you see there are all the warnings you can enable. I don't usually enable these warnings. Deprecated APIs, well, fine, I'm not so worried right now. Let's see. So I'm not sure where these options are actually. Imports maybe. Auto import. Java. Yes, that's where it is. Now you see, for Java, it's add unambiguous imports on the fly and optimize imports on the fly. And it's similar for Scala. Now, optimize imports on the fly is checked right now. This is actually not so great. So I will show you how that works. Add unambiguous imports on the fly is checked, but optimize imports on the fly is not checked. So I'll show you now how that works. Suppose I have add unambiguous imports, but not optimize imports on the fly. Okay, I apply that. And I go to my code. Suppose here I say with before and after, and then I have a choice. Well, let's say before and after all. I'll type this, and now I'll do nothing. I'll just continue editing. It automatically added this import because it's an unambiguous import. There's only one class that you can import with this name. Suppose now I delete this. You see, the import has become gray because it's unused, but this import is still there. You can go to the code and say optimize imports, and then it will automatically remove imports you are not using. If I go to that preference again and I check this optimize imports on the fly, and I do the same thing. So that still works, same as before. It automatically added this import. Now I delete this, so that import is unnecessary. It's gone. So that is, at first sight, very handy. At least it will automatically optimize your imports and exclude imports you don't want. However, it can become difficult to do certain things. So for example, suppose I know I want to use a certain thing, and I say, well, I want to use that. Import org scala test dot underscore. I couldn't even notice, but it already removed that. So the thing is, it optimizes imports automatically, and what I just typed, let me repeat what I just typed, this thing is unused. So it removed that automatically. Now this is not always very handy. You can always, so I disable optimize imports on the fly, which is automatic. You can always optimize imports by hand by doing this, which is Control Option or Alt O. So that's very easy. You can always optimize imports. And here, if I say before and after, whatever, it's unused import, I press Control Option O, it's gone. So I suggest to use this automatic insertion for unambiguous imports, but not optimize imports on the fly. All right, how would I actually run anything? So example spec right now does nothing. A very handy thing in Scala test is this behavior function. So that describes my test. So for example project, it should run, or let's say compute text message in. So this is the syntax for the test. Behavior says what I'm testing. This is pure annotation. This doesn't actually execute anything. This example project is just a string, but it makes it very easy to run individual tests. Let me add another test. Compute result number. I'm not sure what that means, but right now what I want is a function that will print some test message with a number, and this will compute the text message, compute the number, and then print them. So the unit tests will test that the message and the number are computed correctly. Here's how I do that. In the org example, the main, you see in the main code, I make a new Scala object. I choose object here. Say hello world. Now I say def main args array string. Why? So, oh, it's yellow. See, this main becomes yellow. Type annotation required for unit definition. All right, so it tells me I need to say unit. All right, so what will we do? We say val message equals compute message, val number equals compute number, println hello. Well, actually, no, hello. Let's make that in the message. So message plus number, whatever. I'm doing it wrong. Okay, well, obviously we don't have the compute message and compute number functions. Let's define them. Message string. I don't know what that will be. Compute number int. I don't know what that will be. Now the triple question mark is a useful thing in Scala, but this is actually a function that's defined. See, what I did right now is I press and hold command on the Mac, then I hover with the mouse over this thing, and I can click. That's just a function that does nothing. It throws an exception. It's just for convenience. So let's do that. See, I can navigate Another thing I can do is navigate back. So I can navigate to next method, previous method, and I can navigate, where do I navigate back? Here, back. See this? So I'm navigating back to where I was before I navigated to that thing. There are several navigation possibilities when you command hover. So you hold, press and hold command, and you hover with the mouse, and you see various things you can do. Here I can show usages of this method. Right now there's only one method, one usage. If I hover on this, I can click. I can go to definition, so that it tells me it's defined in the object hello world, and compute number returns integer. So that's information I get. Here it tells me definition. This defined in pre-def. I can go to the definition. So that's the main navigation tool I'm using is command hover. Another useful tool is get type of a symbol. So here it is, type info. There are all kinds of info here. Quick documentation. Type info is Control-Shift-P. It says it's string. Very useful in Scala because everything is typed, so you can get type of anything. I can get type of this. You can get type of this. You can get type of this. So everything is typed. It's very convenient. All right. So right now I have these functions. They don't have an implementation, but let me write tests for them. So example. So what was my file there? Hello world, right? Hello. I see it right here. It's hello world. Hello world org.example, and then it automatically imported that symbol. Hello world.compute, and I have my prompt, what I can compute, message or number. Now look at the quality of this search. For example, what if I didn't know the names of these functions? Then I have all the functions in hello world. Compute message, compute number, and main. These are in bold because I implemented them, and these are inherited from parent classes, so they're not in bold. Suppose there are so many, I don't know what I want. For example, I can type any part of the symbol, and it will still find. You see, I typed TE, but it still finds compute message, compute number, and formatted because TE is in there. So very convenient. All right. So this test should compute text message. Let's compute that. Should equal, what should it be? Hello. Let's say. And the number, compute number, should equal 123. Let's run this test. So test-driven development for the win. To run this test, you have several possibilities. One, to right-click on this file example spec on the left. If you right-click on it, you get a big menu, and here is this green button that says Run. You can also debug this example. You run. So let's run. First thing it will do, it will have to compile everything. It's the first time we run it, so oh, no Scala library. All right, seems to be a problem. How do we fix that? We go to the project structure, and we see, all right, so there is this compile thing, which seems to be fine. except that in the global libraries we don't seem to have 2.12.4. Well, let's see. Let's add a new Scala SDK, 2.12.4 will be added. All right, let's see if that helps. Now, I have run, or at least attempted to run, example spec. Right here in this bar, it says example spec, and I can just click the green button to run the same thing again. I don't have to go through menus, and actually this can be done with the run menu, and it has a Control-R keyboard shortcut. So let me do that. I run again. It's still not working. Let's see. What can we do? So what was the actual error? No Scala library jar in Scala compiler class path. Scala library jar. Isn't it odd? Okay. Is that the problem? Imported from SBT. Not sure. Okay, I can fix it. What should we do? Google should help us. So maybe this is this new version of SBT that's not set up correctly. So just in case, I'm going to say no Scala library jar and then SBT version. All right, IntelliJ, no Scala library jar. That seems to be irrelevant. 5 days ago, with the same version I'm using right now, there's this error. So let's see, and this could be a known issue. Same thing as we just did, right? Created a brand new Scala project producing the following error. All right, no solution so far. Let's go there. Yep. All right, so this is actually an open issue. Interesting. Let's see if this issue has been resolved. For 2.12.3 Scala library present. For 2.12.2 doesn't seems to be a bug. It should be fixed with 1.0.3. So this is the bug in SBT. Let's see if SBT 1.0.3 is already available. It might not be. And if not, oh. So they released 1.0.2 and then they're still working on 1.1.0. So 1.0.3 is not released. Since this is a build SBT error, sorry, an SBT problem, let's go back to the version of SBT that works better. So it seems that this is an SBT problem, which we cannot fix. And so the version SBT 102 is probably still buggy and should not be used. Let's close this project and open another one. Create a new project. And now we will not select the latest SBT version. We'll select this one, the one before one. So this is the stable version. Let's get the sources while we're at it. So this will be project sample 2. All right, so let's do the same thing. Actually, I closed sample 1, but we had some useful code there perhaps. Let's go and open the recent project sample 1. And let's copy that code. So how will we copy code? Well, I usually do this. I just drag things over. Now let's see if that even works. I'll open this. And I'll try to drag things over here. I press Option, so there's a plus, and I copy over here. Works. Although it only created an example package. Okay, well, it's fine. Let's do the same with this. Alright, destination package is not clear. Okay. Let's see. And build SBT we don't seem to be able to find like that, so let's copy just this. Alright, now we need to refresh. This is important. We changed the build SBT configuration so that we get the library for testing. So let's see after it refreshes this project. None of this should remain red, and we should be able to run example. Let's go to the structure. We need to check this thing so that it shows us Scala test. It will show after the index is complete, hopefully. And while it's doing this, let me show you how to navigate between files. So for example, let's go to navigate menu. So there are 3 ways to navigate. Navigate to class, navigate to file, navigate to symbol. These are the major means of navigating. So if you know which file you're going to, just do Shift Command O and you type the file name. If you don't know the file but you know the class name or the symbol name, like function name, variable name, then you do Command Option O. So that will give you a symbol name search. So for example, if I don't know where to find compute message, then I do Command Option O and I say compute, and it already tells me where I can find various things. Alright, now this obviously needs imports, so let's do the imports. Matches are automatic. Hello world. It won't, oh, it does find. But it says multiple choices for hello world, so why is that? Oh, because we have hello world in some system package. Well, never mind, we know which one we want. Alright, so now this is another way of running a test, is to put the cursor in the test So first you do that, and then you do Control-Shift-R. Now I don't know what Control-Shift-R is. It's not here, and it's not here. But Control-Shift-R runs the test that I'm at. So let me do that. This works with Scala test as long as you have a behavior declared. So behavior is just a section of your test. You can have several behavior sections, like for example like this, behavior of number, whatever. You can have several sections with behavior, each having one or more tests. As long as you have behavior at top, you see the structure here, and you can run one test at a time. If you don't have behavior, you cannot run one test at a time. You have to run the entire test class with all the tests. So, test failed, by the way, it's red. Why does it fail? Oh, implementation is missing. Of course. So let's command click on this. Yeah, we didn't put an implementation. So let's put an implementation. Hello. And if you go here, you see that test results are red because this test failed. Now we just fixed that failure, or we think so. We can rerun just the tests that failed by pressing this button. It will recompile everything and run the test. Test pass. Excellent. So the second test needs to return 123. So let's return 123 and run the test. So I can do this. I can compute result number, right click, and then run. And you see this pane now has the test, so I can rerun it using this button. It failed. Why did it fail? 1, 2, 3, 4 did not equal 1, 2, 3. Expected 1, 2, 3, actual 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, yeah, I made a mistake. Now I run this test again, like this, and I expect green. Test passes. Now, just so that you see, the structure on the left is now the structure for the Hello World object, which has 3 functions, and so I can navigate to each of these functions using this window. When I'm tired of this window, I go to Project, which is usually what I see on the left. I press Shift Escape, and that goes away. If I'm here, I press Shift Escape, that goes away. I press Command 1, that window appears. I press Command 7, the structure appears. You see the 7 and this 1. The 2 is favorites. I don't have any, so I'm not going to go there. All right, so navigation, for example, I say spec, I see a file that I have, or I say navigation by symbol, main. So where do I have main? I have it here. I can go to spec, I'm there. So this is what IntelliJ gives me. All these are very useful basic functions of IntelliJ that will make your work faster. Note that all these windows are still there, all the output of run is still there, the tests. You can open a terminal as well, which is my terminal window in this project, or I can run my SBT command, for example, SBT run. Let's run, see what happens. I can also open SBT console, which is something different, or I can run, okay, now it will do the same thing. as the IDE does, but a bit slower. Also see I have here the green button. I can run this. I can run this and it will be a different window. So that thing is still running. So this is my output. Terminal is still running. Okay, let's wait a little bit. Done. So now I can use a terminal, or I can just use IntelliJ. I prefer to use IntelliJ for running tests and for running applications. I find it a bit faster. Finally, let's check out an open source project and open it in IntelliJ, an existing open source project. For this example, I will choose a project that I made in my Chemist framework, which is called Chemist Hello World. So let me go to the GitHub, and here's this project, Hello World. So how do I check it out? There's this button, clone or download. I can clone with SSH or with HTTPS. Well, if I were cloning somebody else's project, I would use HTTPS. Let's pretend that is so. Usually I clone with SSH for my own projects. Alright, so I press this button to copy it to clipboard. And then I go back to my terminal and say git clone this. Alright, so I have cloned this Hello World project, which has its own build SBT and source files and everything. How do I open this in IntelliJ? Well, I go to New and I go Project from Existing Sources. Now, this is important. Don't do Open. Don't do Open URL. And Recent, I actually have it in Recent, but if you do this, it will not open the project correctly. In order to open the project, you need to, which you never opened before, you need to do project from existing sources, otherwise it does not work. When you do that, you choose Hello World, and then you go through these settings, SBT. Okay, now you have an option. You can do this, you don't care. SBT sources may be useful. Now you choose your Java SDK, which must be already installed. Check your global settings. That should be fine. All right. This is how you check out an existing project and open it in IntelliJ. Now, the first thing it does, it compiles your build SBT. Once it does that, it's able to load the project settings and the libraries and everything. So this is what it's doing right now. It's compiling your build SBT. See this? /project. This may take a while as it downloads necessary libraries, because see these processes? These are the processes that you need to index everything and to download libraries. If I go now to the project pane, I see the Hello World project with src, target, everything. So this is the right way. If you don't do this, if you just do file open, which you might be tempted to do since you want to open a project, you will open this project, but you will not have src, you will not have here anything. You will not have the right structure. It will not know that you're opening an SBT project. The only right way to do it with IntelliJ is to do new project from existing sources. Once you have opened this like that, once you have made a new project, new means new IntelliJ data. needs to be created. The code is already on your disk. The code already exists, so sources are already there. But the IntelliJ information for this project is not there, and that's what you need to do to create new IntelliJ project information. That's what it really means, this operation. All right, so we're indexing, and we have build SBT, which has Scala test, as we already have seen. It has a different, older Scala version, which I guess is fine. It has a README. Now you see, README is shown in Markdown, but you can also view the README in a rendered way, if you wish. And you can edit this and you can see the results. So now, as you have seen, I have checked out a Git repository first. Once I do that, IntelliJ knows that it's a Git repository, and it shows me this green bar on the left where I made changes. So if I make changes, it makes bar on the left. I can click on this, and then I can undo the changes, or I can do a diff. This is very convenient. I can undo my changes very easily like this. So now, once I make changes, the file name here becomes blue, and also here it becomes blue, which shows me that I have made changes. Now this is just IntelliJ file, but here it shows me I made changes. So unless I check this into Git, these changes will be lost, or I need to undo them myself. So then it again becomes black. So then I know there are no changes. Here there's a Scala sample and test. So very similar application structure. We have tests and a main object that extends app, and then result is this thing, which the test checks that is correct. All right, navigation here works. Now, as a rule, now you can explore this further. You can refactor things. Let me show you how to refactor, and then we'll conclude this tutorial. So suppose I want to rename this from message to, let's say, X. I press Shift F6. Well, now Shift F6 is refactor, rename. See this? Refactor, rename. This is Shift F6. Very useful function. And I can change the name. And as you can see, I can change this name, and every usage of this name in the code is changed automatically. And I press, when I'm done choosing my new name, I press return, and I've got what I want. Control-Shift-P, it's a string. So, you see, automatically I can rename variables, and they get renamed everywhere they're used. I can rename A here to carrier. It's renamed in all places it's used, here and here. Done. This is a very powerful function. I can right-click on this tab, or I can hover on this tab first. I see the full path. I can right-click on this tab, and I can have Git menu. I can add this file, commit it, I can revert it. Annotate is a useful function that shows you who changed the file and in which commit. Let me revert this. Revert. See, because this is a Git repository, I can do a lot of editing very easily. Okay, I annotated. So now each line shows me, well, I was the only one editing, but I did it at different times. So this was edited at different times, and I can click on this, and I can see what commit message was there. Well, in this case, the commit message is not very interesting, but I can do all kinds of things here. I can show diff, I can edit again, and then I can right-click to close annotations. This concludes the tutorial. Explore IntelliJ, explore Scala, and IntelliJ, I'm sure, will make you more productive.